All right. So this is basically just a way for David and Aaron, when he's here, and I to sort of introduce ourselves as the new editorial board for the Professional Wrestling Studies Journal. I am taking over as editor from Matthew Foy, who had to step down.
Matthew was
But
great. Matthew
what?
was great.
Yes, Matthew is great. I actually just Matthew and I have a book coming out together later this year on Mystery Science Theater 3000. So it was a pleasure to work with him on that. Um, and so we just kind of wanted to introduce ourselves and let people know about the journal because we wanted to, drum up some interest in this and hopefully start getting more submissions for this. David, do you have anything you wanted to add before we
Uh,
dive into stuff?
no, just that we're all on the same side here, that the three of us want the highest quality journal reflecting the highest quality conversation that will make the most possible benefit for all of our contributors. So, unlike some journals where it feels like there's a bar and you have to jump 6 feet over it, we're here to create the ladder that will make the journal and the author and the community we serve all stronger and better.
Yeah, I should say that this is my first time as a journal editor, and so I'm getting help from David, but I'm also taking a lot of cues from Carrie Lynn, who I think is still back there, uh, who is the current editor of the Popular Culture Studies Journal. And so I'm using that as kind of a template for, I guess we're going to call it a soft relaunch of the Professional Wrestling Studies Journal in a way. But I want people to know, like David was saying, we want your work. We want, like, I see a lot of people asking for stuff on the Golden Lovers. We want all of your articles on the Golden Lovers. We want all your articles on other stuff. And I am definitely someone who is interested in taking a revise and resubmit approach as opposed to a reject approach because I'm somebody who believes in just helping people shape things and make them as good as they can be. So that's what the vision right now for this journal is. So I don't know. Do we want to go on to the next slide or
Absolutely.
I don't remember what else we got. But so the purposes of the journal, at least in my view, is we want, um, uh, we're an open access peer reviewed academic journal and we welcome scholarly work from any theoretical and methodological lens that is rigorous, insightful, and expands our community's understanding of professional wrestling, past or present, as a cultural, social, political, and or economic institution. And my goal with this journal is I want really good scholarship, but I also want it to be very accessible. I want people who are scholars to find good scholarship, but I also want people who are just fans who maybe don't have 5 years of grad school or other things like that. I don't want that to be a barrier from them to read the journal and feel lost. And so I want good scholarship, but I also want accessible scholarship. Um, and David, I don't know, anything you want to add
Yeah,
to that?
right. I think that's key, it's a key part of why it's an open access journal, right? Rather than
Hmm.
something which is locked up in a university database, because
Yeah.
we want people to be able to find it while
Hmm.
still maintaining the scholarly rigor of double-blind peer review, which
Hmm.
many junior scholars need in order to make a solid case for tenure and promotion.
Yes. Oh, are we recording this? Okay, just want to make sure. Aaron, hi, welcome, Aaron. Did you want to add
Yes,
anything right now?
I'm here for my fashionably late run in. So um no, I agree. I agree with what both of you just said. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's great that this is going to be open to everyone. Because we've all, I think, run into the challenges of obtaining articles sometimes that might be difficult to track down even in JSOR or EBSCOR.
Hmm. Yeah, and so we just want something that, you know, like I said, is going to be rigorous, is going to present good, solid scholarship, but is also something that is not going to be um, stuck behind a paywall and prevents people from accessing good writing about professional wrestling and what it is.
Excellent. And I often think of one of the reasons I love WrestlePosium is that it becomes not just a series of panels, but it becomes a day-long conversation, right? And that conversation becomes a real model, I think, for what the journal is trying to do. And I'm an old-fashioned rhetoric person. And in rhetoric, they hand you this metaphor, which I'm just going to toss up here, which basically says that participating in a scholarly community and a journal is like entering a parlor. You've come late. When others arrive, they've been there long before you. They're all engaged in a heated conversation. They're way too interested in the conversation to pause and fill you in on what happened before you got there. And it's gone on so long that most of them can't really even trace the whole conversation, right? You listen for a while. Once you figure out, hey, I think I know what the tenor of the argument is, then you thrust in your oar, which is a nice metaphor because an oar is this thing we use that moves all of us forward, not just one person forward. Someone answers, you answer him. Another comes to your defense. Another aligns against you. That doesn't really happen that much in this community. I think we're all on the same side, but you know the metaphor where scholars kind of fight with each other in order to make their careers. However, the discussion is interminable. The hour grows late, and you must depart, and the conversation is still going. And I tried to think, well, like, totally, this fits here, right? The journal is a parlor. It's that kind of a conversation. And based on what I've seen in some of the submissions over the last few years, Roland Barth stopped by this party about 40 years ago for about 20 minutes on his way to the semiotics party, but he left such an impression, people still keep dropping his name, right? Platt and Horton thought the party was a potluck, and so they brought Tupperware containers full of the multi-dimensional scale of the analysis of professional wrestling for us all to nosh on. Jessica Fontaine, Arrow Lane, and Michael Altman have taken over the sofa over in the corner to have a conversation about kayfabe, and maybe you want to join them in that conversation. Maybe you did. You were in the special issue they put together. Or maybe you overhear just a little bit of it and you want to pull it into your own conversation over by the bar. And Josh Hamzy keeps asking us to look at his phone. He really wants us to sit down and watch a video called Burnt City, a dystopian bilingual one Persian show, and talk about it. Over in this corner of the room, David, Aaron, and Chris are looking at you from the snack tray, wondering what you will add when it's time for you to put your oar in.
Yeah, I think that's such a great metaphor, and I know it aligns with the ethos that Matt had for this journal when it started, because I know Matt, he was a big, or is a big Kenneth Burke guy, and so I know that that idea of the conversation is really important. And just to give like an example of how it all works, I like when I was doing my master's program and learning about, Baudrillard and simulacrum and all that sort of stuff, I brought up professional wrestling because it seemed to me that was a good example of Baudrillard's idea of something that is false, but reflects reality in some way and makes it hard to discern what is real and what is not and all that sort of stuff. Without knowing that there were a lot of people who came before me that already talked about professional wrestling as a simulacrum. And it wasn't until later that I learned that, and that became part of my understanding of this concept. And so that's kind of what we're hoping to achieve with more of this sort of stuff. And so, Aaron, did you have anything you wanted to add to any of this?
Well, personally speaking, yeah, I think mentioned Roland Barthes, of course, as everyone does. I don't know. I hope if I never have to read about Roland Barthes again, it'll be too soon. And I mean no offense by that. It's just I think stuff has, work has been done since then. And what I hope is that we'll see more people referring back to subsequent work, right? And building upon that, because that was a long time ago, right? And it's a starting point. But I hope that we start to see more and more tradition being built forward uh, from there instead of right like we shouldn't constantly have to go back to someone from that far in the past to kind of give us legitimacy, right? There's more work that has been and can continue to be done that can continue to be built upon without saying, you know, because Bart wrote about it, writing about pro wrestling academically is legitimate, right? And I think for a long time that was the sense. I did it too, right? I mean, we all do. But I'm hoping that this journal will play a part in sort of continuing to help build a body of scholarship that people will continue to then come along and build upon, so that we keep moving forward, moving this particular sub-discipline forward.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I,
My Barth reference was playful. That's why he was only at the party for 20 minutes, dude.
but I mean that, you know, that's not just an issue here in the Professional Wrestling Studies Association. That, you know, being beholden to these old French philosophers is kind of, you know, what the humanities is all about in so many ways. But I agree with what Aaron was saying, and I think, and I see Holly has a question in the chat, and I want to get to that in just a moment, because it does relate to Bart's. But I want to build on what Aaron is saying, because I feel like the goal of the Professional Wrestling Studies Association and the journal is to help build on that foundation that Barth's started. And as David put, you know, it's a playful reference, but we cannot deny the impression that Barth's left. But we also, and this kind of goes to Holly's question, we also have to understand that Barth's was writing at a very specific time about a very specific type of wrestling in a very specific place, which was France at the time that he was writing his piece. And so it's not like Barth's contribution is great and it is important, but it's also not applicable to wrestling as a whole.
Right.
But it is, as Aaron said, it's a great foundation for us to build off of. And I think that is part of what I want to see this journal do, is I want it to contribute to, you know, taking that conversation that Barth's kind of helped to start and move it to the next phase. And Barth's, like, you know, to get to Holly's question, Barth's is very important, very credible. You know, I mean, you can argue with his outlook on things, death of the author and all that sort of stuff. But if you're going to be writing about wrestling right now, his shadow looms large overall, kind of the way that Vince McMahon's shadow is going to loom over wrestling for a very long time, regardless of what's going on with him right now. But Barth's cast a very long shadow. We're just trying to take this weird thing that we all enjoy and like to write about, and maybe pull it out of that shadow a little bit and see if we can go into different directions.
Right. I'm way more interested in opening up the Tupperware containers full of the multidimensional scale for the analysis of professional wrestling. Right. Holly, I would give 3 sentences to Barth, and then I would say, but man, Platt and Horton brought this really cool appetizer, and I really want to work that into my experience. Or the special issue, right? Is Jessica still here somewhere? I know she was here earlier. What a cool thing. What a cool set of conversations to take as the next step, and the part of the conversation that's alive that you want to join now. And to join it in what is really a remarkable array of genres, right? looking at the journal's website, we've already published articles, essays, dialogues, and book reviews. I think, would be excited to get multimedia scholarship. I think that's been one of the goals of the journal. And I added a quick little note here. There are certain cool kinds of literature reviews that, as the book review editor, I would also be super interested in kind of shepherding through the process.
Yeah, and as far as multimedia scholarship goes, I mean, my background is mainly in film studies and that sort of stuff, and I love video essays. And I keep thinking about like how useful video essays would be for something like professional wrestling scholarship, because we are analyzing a very visual medium. And so to have somebody maybe do a video essay on a specific match where you can break down all the different moves, things like that. I would love to see that kind of stuff popping up in the PWSJ, because I think it would be a good complement to the articles and the sort of non-scholarly essays and the dialogues and things like that. So I think there's so many different directions we can go, and right now, I should just note that I am still in the process of figuring out timelines and submission guidelines and style guide and all that sort of stuff. I'm working all that up. Hopefully, we'll have that soon. But we originally had the journal publish along with side of WrestlePosium. But we didn't have a good crop of submissions yet, or submissions that need a lot of work and aren't ready to go. And so we decided to move publication of the current issue to November, and we think we're going to stick with that for the foreseeable future. Because one thing that I would like to see happen is, people do their presentations at WrestlePosium, and then either they can contact me or I can reach out to them and be like, hey, this seems like it would be a good fit for the journal. Would you maybe want to try to work it up so that we can include it in the November issue? Like it's the WrestlePosium is like the NXT for the journal's main roster in some ways. We're like looking for things that we can shape and mold and bring to that main stage, basically. And I don't know if David and Aaron, I don't know if you disagree with that or feel like that is too ambitious or anything, but if you have thoughts, I'm open to that as well.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. Some of I haven't been able to attend all of the panels today, but some of the presentations I've seen, it got me thinking, like, there's definitely a lot of interesting ideas out here that could be very good articles, very good submissions for the journal. So um, usually the presentation is step one, right? But the next step after that is to maybe refine it a bit and consider that to the journal. So I strongly also encourage people to consider that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would add is it's not very daunting when we're talking about this kind of a parlor to reach out to a journal that's only had 3 issues, right?
Something like that. 3 or 4, yeah.
3 or 4. The conversation is small, it's easy to master, and it's easy to join. And it's our job to help make that happen.
And I will say that I'm pretty nice when it comes to feedback. I am definitely not reviewer number 2. Even as I'm, hopefully giving you good feedback that will let you polish up your work so that it is ready for publication and all that stuff. But I'm somebody who doesn't believe in tearing down. I'm more about building up. And if I see that you've got a good foundation and it just needs, some TLC here and there, I'm not gonna inundate you with things to be like, why would you write this? Why are you doing here? What's this? What's that? I'm gonna try to help you shape it in a way that doesn't demoralize you or make you want to run for the hills or anything like that.
Can I make one more pitch?
Of course.
One of the best ways to learn how to write for a journal is to be willing to serve as a peer reviewer for the journal. And so if you feel like you're not quite ready to take the leap into producing your own manuscript, but you'd be willing to be one of the anonymous peer reviewers, they can also reach out to you, right?
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And I'll put my email in the chat just so people have it. One of the things that I have been pushing for is I'd like to get some dedicated emails for the journal, but we don't have that yet. So right now people can just reach me at my personal email address, which is in the chat now. That may change, that email address may change slightly because I'm starting a new job in the fall and still getting all my email and stuff set up, and I may want to switch it over to my professional email, but for now we'll go with this one. But anyway, I think that's everything that I've got. I don't know, is there anything you want to add, Aaron? Or I don't know if we
Well,
lost David or not.
yeah, regarding David's analogy of the appetizer for the multi-dimensional scale for professional wrestling, um, there'll be more of that to come. We'll be probably soliciting members of the PWSA in the future as we continue to develop that and continue to test it in various ways. So certainly everyone in attendance will probably at some point have an opportunity to participate in that process if interested, in terms of taking sample matches and then looking at scores in various ways. So yeah, that more to come on that. We hope to have something for next year's WrestlePosium, sort of an update on its development. So since David mentioned it, I felt I would just throw in the plug, I guess.
We're always about plugs here. You know, we should all have like our t-shirts that have things like, you know, wrestlers come out wearing their own shirts. We could come out wearing our own like titles for our journal articles and stuff. Anyway, I did just put the link to the journal in the chat. So if people are interested, they can go over there, check out the past issues and see what it looks like. But just know that right now I've got to update the call. I've got to update some other things, which will be happening soon. But as I said, Carrie and I are in the process of getting ready to move to a whole other state. You can see there's boxes right here. So that's kind of put everything else on the back burner right now. But all that stuff will be updated soon. But any questions that people have about the journal, please feel free to reach out to me via as David said, my disemboweled email address. And I'm happy to answer any questions that people have about the journal. And I'm happy to answer any that we have because we still have 5 minutes. So if anybody has questions or anything they'd like to add or know about, please send it in the chat.
Pitch us something.
Yes, pitch us things. Send us all your pitches.
Do you want just reviews or other types of reviews?
That is a good question. I would be open, and David and Aaron, you can disagree. One thing that we've started to do with the Popular Culture Studies Journal is we're not just reviewing books, we're reviewing popular culture texts. So we have, because I'm also the reviews editor for the Popular Culture Studies Journal, we have reviews of films, TV shows, we've had reviews of plays and other things. And I think for this journal, it would be cool. And I like book reviews as well, because I think that it's great to, you know, have people pointing you in the direction of scholarship. But, you know, maybe we could get like a review of the AEW Fight Forever game, or we could get reviews of pay-per-views or PLEs or whatever they're calling them these days. You know, maybe we could have people review matches according to Aaron's multi-dimensional scale and all that sort of stuff. hell, have somebody come in and review the old pile driver albums from the WWE or whatever, you know, and see how they hold up these days. Things like that, I think, would be interesting, but they would also be fun. And I think that's kind of the vibe we're going for. We want interesting scholarship, but we also kind of want to have fun because that's what wrestling is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. And so I think we could definitely open it up to have reviews of other things. And David and
You could
Aaron, if
also
you disagree, let me
Oh
know.
no, I think that's a great idea. You could also, it just occurred to me, you could review wrestling documentaries, like an episode of Dark Side of the Ring or one of the WWE produced documentaries. They tend to crank out a lot of those. So that would be another potentially reviewable item
What?
for sure.
Yeah, there's movies, you know, stuff like the Iron Claw. Or even, you know, I think it'd be really fun to have people review wrestling merch.
Yeah.
You know, there's more than just t-shirts out there, and maybe we want to have some reviews of those things. So I'm open to having reviews of multiple types of text. Yeah, AI and wrestling merch would be an interesting topic too. Yeah, very much so. There's so many options. Wrestling is so convergent and interdisciplinary. There's so many ways we could approach the study of this, and I really think like wrestling, a wrestling journal should be going in all those kinds of different directions. So yes, we could have a review of the Kenny Omega Christmas ornament. So
I want the knit. Someone has to do the knitting.
the knitting stuff, yeah, all that. But anyway, that's the journal, and that's us. So please reach out with your ideas. Yes, so let's not get Anna started on Yarngate because we could be here for a while. But that's us. Please reach out to us with suggestions for articles, for reviews, for discussions. If you have interviews, whatever, just reach out to us, let us know, and we'll see if it's a fit for the journal.